7 FM. This is the Ripple Effect Radio Show, featuring the songs and teachings of Pastor Rob Baker, published songwriter and musician with over 30 years of pastoral experience in the fields of spiritual phenomena, church health, and biblical worship.
Good day, Newport. Thank you for tuning in to the Ripple Effect. I'm Rob Baker, and I'm so blessed to spend this time with you, a time meant for your soul, where God the Holy Spirit can speak to your spirit, where you can express your love and faith in Him, where you can consider some of the awesome passages in His living Word, the Bible, and enjoy some of my songs and some of my life experiences to go along with our subject matter from week to week. The nature of our show is that each listener would have a personal experience with God. Please consider the next 30 or 45 minutes to be a spiritual pebble that God drops into your life. And as He reveals things to you and shows you His heart, be prepared for Him to give you an opportunity to drop a spiritual pebble into someone else's life and share with them what He's done for you. This will bring blessings to your life and joy to the heart of Jesus. I hope you'll listen to the message and the music as part of connecting with Him and hearing from Him to feed your spirit and strengthen your relationship with the one true God. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ripple Effect Radio Show. I'm Rob Baker, and I'm here with Ben Potter, the Lynn County and Benton County and Lincoln County foster care rep. People, this dude is a biggie, okay? A biggie in the studio today. And he's got some passion to share with y'all. This is really cool stuff, and I just encourage you to set the next few minutes aside. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if he speaks to your heart, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit if he brings the names and faces of people you know to your mind that really need to hear this incredible message about foster care children and the amazing experiences we can have. So, as I've said, we're here with Ben Potter, and most of you probably have seen his face in the post offices, around the jails and prisons of our state. He's wanted for multiple infractions. And see, this is why we have the studios, because it's so much fun. Did you hear him laugh right then? So we're going to have some fun. Ben, so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Rob. I am so excited to be here.
We're going to cover a lot of stuff, but I love how in talking with you before airtime, you've been so pointed on certain things, key things that you really want the listener to remember. Yeah. So please don't feel afraid to repeat yourself. And remember, if you stutter or stumble, I did it first. All right? So be at ease. And for those of you listening, want to just give you a sense of the end of the process here. Some of the stories that Ben's shared with me and people around the community are so awesome. And it just makes you feel so good and warm inside. So we want to be able to start with that, right? And just say, yeah, come on, let's let them see what can happen. All the stuff that really can be, like if you're building a dream house. Hey, here's the architect's drawing of what it looks like. Not just squares on pages, but an actual picture of the house. Ooh, right? And now we go through this process of helping people understand how, in some ways, easy it is to get involved, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about your fostering journey, so to speak, your position with ODHS, and you can kind of explain more what that means. And I understand you've been a foster parent a while with many kids in and out of your home. Yeah. That's fantastic. And one of them actually stayed. Now, I put in actually just to be mean. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it worked out for one of them to stay. I'll get into that in just a second. But so I'm wearing a lot of different hats right now. I'm a foster parent. I've been a foster parent for over 24 years. Started in 2001. It was at a time I'd just gotten married, and we had bought in this little 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, and we were thinking, how can we open our heart and home to really care for whatever's available in the community. What is the need in our community, and how we have this space? How can we use this space? And this is coming from the background where we had already been in missions with Youth with a Mission.
Right.
That's where we met. My wife and I met in South Africa.
Wow.
And then we moved to Oregon right after that. And then we're just kind of open, whatever God had.
Sure.
And I don't really remember exactly why we opened our home specifically for fostering. I just remember that, the verse where God talks about taking care of the orphan and the widow.
Right.
And I was thinking, I like kids. I think we can take care of the orphan. I think we can, whatever that looks like today, because we don't really have orphanages, right?
Right.
And so my wife and I, we just decided, let's do this. And we got signed up, got certified, and we stuck with it for 24 years.
24 years. Got signed up and got certified. So there is a process, and we'll get into that a little bit. And I don't want to stop you, but I do want to jump in with regard to your wife, Jocelyn, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
You guys, we need to have, and I'm kind of baiting myself here, we need to have Jocelyn Potter come in and give you all her testimony. My goodness, she was testifying for Jesus at the Newport Church of the Nazarene on Resurrection Sunday, and
Yeah.
it was powerful.
It was pretty
It
amazing.
was awesome, man. So we want to hear her story too. So she's got quite a story to go along with this
Yeah.
thing. So it sounds pretty amazing that God begins to stir your heart and direct your thoughts at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I was referring to the different hats. The other hat I wear is I work for the Oregon Department of Human Services. So it kind of worked out. I was in Christian education for many years, and then I got my degree in human development, Bachelor of Science, and so I wanted to see what was available to as that season was closing.
Right.
And the agency had a position to train foster parents, so I was like, I've done this. I
Wow.
think I can do this. And so I've been working for ODHS, Oregon Department of Human Services,
Good.
now for just about 8 years.
Wow. That's awesome. So ODHS then is part of that process by which a lot of the training comes, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really important thing for people to understand about the end, about looking, how does it look at the end, is to know that there's training out there. You're not just going to get turned loose. Here's a child that needs a home. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's not that. There's real specific, in-depth training that I can't imagine how helpful that would be, how important that is. So now, is that the certification process that you were talking
It's
about?
one of the steps to become certified. Okay. Yeah, it's 27 hours of training that you're going to go through.
27 hours. That's not bad. Yeah. Okay. So what else? How does the house look at the end?
Well, at the end, it's a moment that's kind of like pretty climatic, right? So you go through all this training, you're hearing about working with kids and all the challenges and some of how the system works. And really in the beginning, it's just information overload. Honestly, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's just so much to take in.
Oh, good point.
At one time. And so you go through all this training, and then you get that first phone call, right?
Right.
When the agency calls you and says, hey, we got these kids in care. They're going into care. Here's a little bit about them.
Yeah.
And within an hour, they're at your front doorstep.
Yeah.
You open the door, and there's these little scared kids.
Yeah.
They don't know where they're
had
at.
a rough go of it.
And they're just not feeling comfortable at all. And it's your job to try to intervene in that situation, make them feel at home, and try to make the best of the situation.
Well,
and
it would be at that point that you would realize, if you hadn't already, and be very glad for that training. When they finally arrive, you'd be really thankful that you had all that training, and you weren't just being turned loose.
Yeah, but I hear from a lot of foster parents that the training, it just does not prepare you for that day.
It's sure, and
you kind of learn as you go. But the training is helpful.
A baby, right? It's not going to actually prepare you for the birth date and that baby being there.
Yeah, you can have the book knowledge, but
you betcha, and you're glad for all that training and all the help that comes with it. So definitely not alone in all of it. There's a whole set of organizations that are there to help, and people like you that are there to help, real people, not just an AI on a phone line or a book, a manual, but real people that have done it, right?
Yeah.
And so now the child has arrived, and you've gone through that process, and you've had some adjustment period, okay, but then things start to, if they're going to start to work, and tell us what it looks like. What happens when things start to work and the child becomes a little less scared and the relationship starts to develop?
Well, foster care is getting into the middle of families in crisis. You're getting into that really hard space. And with that comes opportunity. I think, just to get right to the point, people ask, why would you foster?
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge lift in our community to take a child. We all know that caring for kids is incredibly selfless work.
Right.
Caring for other people's kids is even more selfless work.
Yep.
And so you have to have something, this foundation that you're working from. And you get into these positions where families are dealing with things like addiction, generational trauma.
Wow.
And you are there, put in this position, and it's not just the foster kids that you're helping out here. It's
Amen.
also the families, the birth families of the kiddos.
Oh boy.
You're
And
helping the
that's part
whole
of
family.
That's part of the training too, right?
And that's all in the training,
I hear
yes.
your training coming out, brother. That's good.
We are emphasizing working with the whole family. Yeah, because if you're not careful, it's really easy to get this us versus them thing going with the parents.
Yeah.
We want to prevent that. We want to be a resource for that parent. That's why they're calling it resource families.
Well, I like when you say what we want it to be. See, now you're talking, this is how it could look at the end. And we're talking about, again, trying to find words that match is hard here, right? But we're talking about at the end that suddenly there's a safe, loving, nurturing, stable home for the kids.
Yeah, it's powerful.
And maybe, yes, while mom and dad work on some things.
Yeah.
But maybe to stay. Maybe kids and foster parents actually fall in love and actually begin to see each other in that very special way. Is that kind of part of where you're wanting people to go when they really think about what it looks like at the end?
It's so unpredictable. Every case is different.
Sure.
Rob, sometimes it might be that you're working with the family and the parent, the birth family wants nothing to do with you.
Right.
And so really it's just you being a stable, loving, nurturing placement for a season in these kids' life while mom and dad work on themselves.
Yep, either one.
That's really good work too, because what we know is that between the ages of 0 and 13, it's so formative. Like, like I was talking about, I got my degree in human development. And one of the things we learned is just how much a child's subconscious is developed in those first few years. And part of that, and it completely changes the trajectory of their life. What's absorbed in those very moldable years, right?
Right.
And so I think as resource parents, you have that ability to really help set the right paradigm for these kids. And when I say like paradigm, I mean, is this world safe? Can I trust it?
Right.
I mean, that one question answered in a kid's mind completely affects the trajectory of their life.
Wouldn't it with you?
Absolutely.
I mean,
we're all asking that question.
Yeah. And so I get what you're saying. Now is we want the listener, the hearer, the person right now that maybe the Lord's kind of touching your heart, maybe kind of speaking to your mind right now about the possibilities. And so you're saying, hey, look, this has two wings that this bird can fly by.
Yeah.
Right. And one is you're helping to provide a safe, loving, nurturing, stable home for kids while mom and dad are working on things to make the family better.
Yeah.
Or you're working on providing a safe, loving, nurturing, stable home for kids that you've adopted. Right?
Sometimes that's the way the case turns.
Isn't that something, man? I've seen some amazing adoption stories come out of this. Amazing. Total win-win. I mean, amazing win for the kids, amazing win for the parents. Maybe a lot of them couldn't have kids. Maybe a lot of them came from an environment that was not safe and loving and nurturing and all that kind of stuff. And they know what it means to have that.
Yeah.
See, this is fantastic, everybody. We're going to take a break. We've got a lot more to cover, but we're just going to take a break and let the Lord stir your thoughts for just a bit as we go to one of our sponsors. Thank you.
Lincoln County Foster Care. Protect a child's heart. Lincoln County Foster Care. Restore family. Lincoln County Foster Care. Make a difference, make a difference. Lincoln County Foster Care.
Hello. Please listen to your heart for the next 60 seconds or so about getting involved with Lincoln County Foster Care. Children enter foster care for different reasons. Sometimes families are walking through overwhelming challenges and need additional support to keep their children safe. Foster care steps in during those seasons, offering stability and care while families work toward healing and strength. It's important to remember that children enter foster care through circumstances beyond their control, and that every family carries both story and hope. Foster care is protecting a child's heart. Foster care is supporting families on their path towards stability. Foster care is partnering with parents, relatives, and communities. Foster care is standing in the gap during a season of need. Foster care is joining something larger than yourself. Foster care is planting seeds of care and connection that can grow for generations. Your foster care connection for Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties is Benjamin Potter, 541-921-7421.
Lincoln County Foster Care. Protect a child's heart. Lincoln County Foster Care. Restore family. Lincoln County Foster Care. Make a difference, make a difference. Lincoln County Foster Care.
We're back with Ben Potter, the Lynn County, Benton County, and Lincoln County representative for the ODHS, Oregon Department of Human Services. Fantastic to have you here once again, brother. We're speeding right along, everybody. Hope you can keep up. This is great stuff. If you know somebody that you think really needs to think about foster care, give them a call right now, would you? And just tell them to tune in, 98.7 FM right here in Newport. Ben, once again, thanks for being with us, brother. Appreciate all the wonderful things that you and your wife have done over the years in this area. Maybe talk a little bit more about the role foster care plays when families in our community are in crisis, and how simply showing up, and this is huge, man, how you say that simply showing up can open the door for God to work.
Yes.
That's powerful, bro. Do you have examples where do you want to go with that?
Yeah, as families, we all go through these moments where we could use outside support. There's been seasons my own family has walked through where we've needed that outside support. Foster care is showing up in the crisis and watching what amazing opportunity unfolds.
Wow.
God does many wonderful things in this work. We've had the opportunity to be invited to share in the birth of one of our former foster youth that was in our care.
Oh my goodness.
And it was crazy because we didn't necessarily leave on good terms when she aged out of the system, and we thought we'd never really hear from her again, but we had her for a few years, and she was able to reflect on the pivotal role that we were able to provide in her life in that season, that hard season she was in. And she wanted to share that with her own child.
My
and
goodness.
she didn't even invite anybody else except for us.
Wow.
And we were shocked. Like, we had no idea that was how she viewed us.
My goodness.
So sometimes you're planting seeds and you don't even know the seeds are growing.
Wow.
As these kids are maturing into adulthood. And we still have a relationship with this
that's pretty
with this
fantastic.
gal. Yeah,
Wow.
it's really amazing just to see how that all
So
can happen.
really, one of the big questions that we have been hearing lately over at Newport Nez, for example, is why am I here? What's my purpose? And purpose, having a purpose has a lot to do with fulfillment, if you know where I'm going. And people have empty places in their lives and they pick things as their purpose. This is what I'm going to do for what? For fulfillment, to try to get those places filled and complete.
It's really about being the hands and feet of Jesus.
In a big way. And the one of the amazing things about this is the experience of being, as you've just said, the hands and feet of Jesus, to being an instrument for God's glory that will fulfill you like nothing else. We're talking about satisfying the soul, literally, aren't we?
Absolutely. And it's not easy work, Rob. I mean, I think going into this with eyes wide open is important.
Sure.
There's going to be times that these kids will test you. They're going to see where your boundaries are. They're going to
come on.
they've had gone. Well, all of them have gone through a lot of trauma.
Sure.
And what does trauma do? It makes us distrusting.
Yep.
It makes us. It's about me and protecting me. So it's really hard to think about you.
Yeah.
And so, we've had so many kids that it just feels like we're giving in the relationship and nothing in return.
Sounds like parenthood in general.
Parenthood in general.
I mean, we're talking about being a parent.
Yeah.
That's scary too.
Yeah.
This
it really
has its own element of issues, but so does just being a parent. And boy, I'm hard pressed, but I really can't think of any examples where other kids have ever been bad.
Yeah, well, we've had so many moments to show unconditional warmth and love to
There
so
you
many
go.
families and children over the
Yeah.
years. Some who have rejected us, others who have never really experienced it before, and you see them grow into healthy, well-adjusted kids right before your eyes. That's where it gets really satisfying, right?
Right.
Here's the thing you don't realize is this work also changes us. To put yourself into these moments of crisis where your family helps other families will change you.
Oh, man.
We are far less judgmental than when we first started this work. Some families deal with things far harder than what we've ever had to deal with.
Yeah.
And that is why one person will foster. That's why you get into this work. You get to be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
And you will give, you'll give yourself completely to this work. And it just watch what God does when you do put yourself in these situations.
That's awesome. And of course, we know that you're not espousing a religion here, that this is a humane issue, regardless of your religion. But I feel like, you don't usually get an opportunity to share your faith as part of your interaction because you have to be careful about that and not to offend or take a liberty. And yet, you are a man of faith yourself. I know this. And you've been able to see kind of both sides of the coin then. How foster care works when God is not involved, maybe, either originally with the parents or at some point with the kids. And maybe you've seen what happens when God then gets involved. And maybe you've seen what happens when God's involved in everybody from the very beginning. So share a little bit about your faith, what you've observed in the church, and I think you've covered some of that already, but go ahead and testify. Here's your chance.
Rob, when you gave me this opportunity and you were telling me about it earlier, I started losing sleep because I just couldn't stop thinking about what an amazing opportunity I have, because I am a man of faith and I have a Christian worldview lens that I see this world. And then I'm also in circles where I'm working with the state of Oregon as an employee, which, is a neutral zone where we have to appreciate diversity of views and understand that not everybody sees the way we do. And we have to have cultural humility and all these things when we're working with families of different values and belief systems.
Right.
And so, navigating all of that. And then there's the kids and where they're at and the identities that they have and working through all that. I mean, it's really a thing where I have to really think through, like, what do I believe? How do I apply this in a way that is inclusive and not just, my own views is the right way and nobody else has
not just your
anything
own
to offer,
right.
or way of seeing things,
Not just your own views.
Yes.
But you're talking about now, as a man of faith, you're talking about going to God with these questions, going to God with these issues, and discovering his views and embracing them and adopting them as your own. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that says it. And it's like I said earlier, I mentioned talking about, sitting in the seat of judgment and how that's really changed for us as we've grown in this work. I've observed within the church a lot of seating in the seat of judgment when it comes to getting involved in foster care.
Right.
Sure, you're working with the state, you're working with competing worldviews. When you're taking kids into your home, you are surrounding them with your home culture, which many don't realize how traumatic that can be.
Sure.
Imagine being pulled from your home where that is your normal and put in a new home where it's all different.
Right.
Different foods, different smells, different
Right.
ways of relating with each other, and different levels of cleanliness. We've had foster kids come into our home that we later found out they were anxious because our home was too clean and too decluttered. They were more comfortable in a cluttered, messy environment.
Right.
We've had kids come into our home that say we eat too healthy.
Yeah.
And we say these are all good things to have a clean house and eat healthy, right? Not
Right.
realizing that for the kiddos, it makes a hard situation even harder for them.
Sure.
So the approach is to learn and take your cues from them.
Yeah.
Be curious. It's not that you have to be less clean, but maybe you let their room go a little bit more messy than you're comfortable with.
Don't make them necessarily adhere to your standards, especially right off the bat, until you've had a chance to let them see for themselves what works better, messy or clean, healthy or junk, and let them see and let them observe. And
Yeah.
give us a sense of your sense of God being a respecter of free will here, because that word is in. I don't know if you specifically used it, but when you say be sensitive to cultural differences and norms and things like that, that has respect kind of built into it. That you would have a humble respect for different views and different ways, right? How has that shaped you?
Well, we live in a country where there's freedom of religion. So the level playing field is everybody gets to choose what they believe, what they value, and their own belief systems, worldviews. And so I've observed that, when I think about this and the clash of this is how I see the world to be, God's design for us, and then this is how I see other people see the world and their identity that they maybe choose that's different than what we see from a biblical worldview, for instance.
Right.
How do you navigate that, right?
Right.
Because that happens all the time when you're in this work.
Yeah.
And so some of the ways I've kind of really thought through this, and I've thought a lot about this, is that, God, I've observed that God is a respecter of free will. He gives us free will. What we choose for our lives is up to us as we see best, given all of our experiences and upbringing and an influence of culture that have brought us to where we are at. And choices have consequences. Sometimes we make bad choices. Sometimes we make good choices. And it's a process we're all going through. We're journeying through this life, figuring this out, And so I kind of see that, for love to exist, there's free will, right? Free
Right.
will allows love to exist.
Right.
Otherwise, we're all just robots walking around.
I mean, it's like I'm
it's
programmed.
when I
have to love you,
choose
right?
to honor and respect you, Rob,
Yeah.
that comes to you as love,
Yeah.
right? And that's a choice I make. And so I think it's the same with God, as he gives us this free will and lets us live out how we see best fit in a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same way I approach kids that come into care.
Right.
I give them free will to choose what they think is best. I'm not going to try to do the route of compulsion.
Right.
Because if there's anything we've seen in the past when it comes to religious compulsion, that you've got to believe a certain way,
Right.
what happens? It really drives people away,
It does.
right?
It does.
True faith thrives in a free society where you are free to choose what you think is best. And so just as I want people to respect and support what I see is my view of life, so I extend that same respect to kids in care
Sure.
to families that are different than me.
That's good.
And that's going to look different than what I think. And it's not my job to change. There's going to be influence.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, there's no more stronger influence than your own home. When you think
Right.
about it,
Right.
right? Your home is a place where you are free to have whatever you want on the walls,
Yeah.
your Sunday routine,
Most of your
You're-
time spent there.
you
Yeah.
praying before dinner. I
Yeah.
mean, there's all these things that we do in our own home
Yeah.
that a child is going to be exposed to. And it's not that you have to change that. It's that we have to honor where they are at.
Sure.
So we've had foster kids that don't want to go to church with us on a Sunday morning,
Right.
and we have to figure something else out for
Right.
them, and that's fine.
Right.
That's if that's what they choose and that's what they want.
You bet.
But they're still going to be exposed to the way we live,
Right.
you know. But it's not a compulsion thing.
And it's a good illustration of the kind of counsel you would give to a young person. Again, not compelling or forcing or mandating,
Yeah.
but counseling, advising, helping.
Yeah.
You know, please benefit from my mistakes,
Yeah.
right? Right?
It's-
Don't want to see you having to make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah.
Well, usually people sense the care in that. That's
Well,
a form of caring.
actions speak louder than words
There you
too.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. So really, it is. There's plenty of common sense to apply to this, and it's not like you're out on a new alien world and everything. All the definitions have changed. No, you can live your life of faith in front of a young person, in front of adults that are struggling with family relationships, and know that God's going to have effect. And that there's going to be benefit from that,
Yeah,
just from
absolutely.
letting them observe your relationship with God. So some of those things go unspoken, and they have to, as you've wisely said, and it does take a kind of wisdom. So I want to just kind of give you a chance here as we move toward the back half of the radio show here at Ripple Effect to hit on any key areas of your own passion, things that you'd want to really make sure that the listener has in their head. 3, 4, 5 things just to encourage them and maybe even confirm in their head and hearts that God is speaking to them.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I want to expand a little bit on what I was just talking about because it comes up all the time, Rob. I mean, I that's my position. I'm working with people that are interested for Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties. They want to check out foster care. They're coming to me with all their questions. And one thing I've noticed with a lot of people coming from the church or Christian worldview is they ask about, well, is the agency going to make me compromise my beliefs? And specifically, they wonder about this issue because it's saturated in our training that there's, making sure that we are honoring and respecting of all identities.
Right.
So what's going to come up in that? You probably can guess LGBTQ,
Sure.
IA, 2S plus.
Yeah.
The list of all these different identities.
Yep.
And I just wanted to touch on this because it's a big issue that hangs up, and I think it's the reason why a lot of families don't come forward to foster is because they get hung up on this issue. So if you're working as a foster parent for the state of Oregon, then they ask that you are affirming of all various identities, and they define affirming as respecting, accepting, and supporting children of various identities. You'll receive retraining on this, and it just comes up a lot. And I've thought a lot about this. I think, well, that's fine if you struggle with this, and maybe this isn't for you, and that's your decision, and I get it if that's your decision. But I think it's important to understand, meanwhile, we have a stack of kids entering into foster care. Who's going to care for them? We can still sit on the sidelines of this work because we don't agree with the worldview of the agency, but I don't think it's the right stance. Again, staying out of the seat of judgment means evaluating yourself. So I've had really time to think through and wrestle with identities myself, and I just want to touch on this real quick, Rob.
Yeah.
We believe in a God-given identity, and that makes all the difference. And I have found that to be so true in my own life. I also recognize I've struggled with identity for many different reasons and seasons in my life. I've had seasons of shame where I felt unworthy to be considered acceptable of the love that God has for me. Really struggled with that. Gosh, as a teenager, I tried out a lot of different identities. I was finding my way, trying to find a way to fit in.
Right.
I was the basketball athlete. I was the pole vaulter. I was the skater, surfer. I was the musician. But all of these were not necessarily the right identity for me. And it took me years to figure out that my greatest identity is that the God who created the heavens and earth demonstrated his love for his people by lowering himself to the point of death. He was the most undeserving person who suffered the worst punishment of crucifixion. And why did he do it? For me.
Yep.
If that gets inside of you and the realization of this truth forms your identity, wow, that changes everything.
Yep.
But that's a journey of me really working through my identities. And so, when I see some of these younger teens and youth really struggling with identity, it looks a lot like my own path of struggling with identity too. So I'm not going to be so quick to judge and say that, oh, I'm rejecting them. They're in this arena. I am rejecting any kind of interaction with these people.
Right.
That's not the right call, I don't think. I think we need to get involved and we can talk about identities. And, it just naturally happens in conversation that curiosity comes up around the dinner table as you're driving somewhere. When you're taking a kid somewhere, conversation's going to come up and they're going to ask about, well, what do you believe?
Right.
What do you think on this? And that's your moment that you can talk about, well, this is what I believe and this is how I see it. I also respect the way you see it.
Right.
And let that do the talking.
Right.
Let that
you share your experiences with them. This is what I've done. This is what happened to me, and these are the fruits that you can kind of expect from this path. Awesome. What else?
So next, I would say, you're asked to give a stable, loving, nurturing environment for the kids, and if you're doing it right, you've developed a bond with these kids.
Yeah.
So there's some hard things that people don't realize going into this.
Right.
But the more you bond, the harder it is to say goodbye when that day comes when they have to when they're going to reunify with their families.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we need our foster families, our resource families, to be 100% on board with this. And it's easier said than done.
Sure.
But just imagine getting a 9-month-old completely dependent on you. You have them for over a year, and they are bonded to you, and you to them, and then the court makes a decision about their case, and without warning, it's time for them to go home.
Right.
This happened to us many times,
Mm-hmm.
and there's grief and loss in that moment. It's like losing one of your own kids.
Sure.
This is the hard part.
Yep.
And you never were the primary parent. That's another thing that I think people don't realize. You're just in these kids' life for a season. You're the primary caregiver, but not the parent. And there is a difference.
Sure.
Because you're super vested, right? I mean, you have these kids 24/7. They're in and out of your home. They're living in your home. They've merged into your life. And the reality is you feel very vested. You feel very connected to this child.
Right.
And so it's hard. It's hard to say goodbye when that day does come.
Would you say that it's fair, that it's true to say that even in scenarios like that, worth every minute, worth all of it?
Was it worth every minute of all of it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because here's the thing. I think all of us learn to bring closure to seasons of life. Some of us struggle more with it than others.
Sure.
Because there is changes. There's
Sure.
no way about it. There's
Yep.
different seasons in the life, and life is going to change.
That's true.
And it's hard to adapt sometimes. But I think you just look at it and you're thankful for the time you had. You take joy in the fond memories, and you say goodbye, and you move on to another chapter.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's really hard because
Sure. Of course.
if you do that too many times, you start to numb.
People do
actually.
that with TV shows. They're going to do it with kids, of course. And yet, I hear in your voice and I see in your eyes, and this is radio, I know, but trust me, I can see it. It's worth it. I hear you saying, look, people, you want to do something that's truly fulfilling, truly satisfying on levels you couldn't possibly achieve otherwise. If you want to do something big for God, you want to do something that you know pleases Him, something big for Him. Brothers and sisters, here it is. This is it. This is a big, big thing to do. And I hear all of the trained people say, hey, man, it's not easy. But everything I've ever done, and I share some of those experiences with you in sports and music and business and as a pastor previously. Ooh, there's hard stuff, and you wish you wouldn't have to go through it, but at the end of it all, worth every minute.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of the cost, at the end of it all, worth every penny. Amen?
Amen. I totally agree.
Ben, we're going to have you on again. Obviously, this is just too big for one show. So maybe what we could do is get you and Jocelyn to come back and do another Ripple Effect show for us. We're also going to be starting a new show called Soul Care, about repairing and caring for the soul. And would you say it's fair to say that it takes a strong soul to be involved in foster care?
I think to be secure, stable in your relationships with your spouse and in your identity and with God and who you are kind of all prerequisites to do this hard work.
Good deal. So you're going to be hearing more from Ben and hopefully Jocelyn.
But we're not looking for perfect families either.
There aren't any. Yeah. It's like looking for the perfect church, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
If you ever find one, you can't join it because then it won't be perfect anymore. Yeah, we got that. Ben, a real pleasure. Thank you so much. Any last words you want to just put in?
Yeah, I just want to say for those who might be interested in moving forward and getting involved, it's more than just fostering. Okay. So we've developed some really exciting programs that you can get involved with the foster care system without necessarily being a foster parent that's opening up your home. So something that just started and began in 2024 is we began this new certified respite program where we will pay people to give foster parents a break. So taking,
Sure.
It's not the long-term commitment. It's
Right.
maybe just one day.
Right,
Maybe it's
right.
just a weekend.
Right. You bet.
And it's a great way to kind of, test the waters to see if this is right for you, to see if this is a good fit.
Great information. Great information. What other contact information would you want anybody to have if they're just about to write something down?
Well, the website I would go to is foster.oregon.gov, foster.oregon.gov, right?
Right.
And that will get you connected to me ultimately, but you'll probably get signed up through Every Child, which is one of our partner recruiting agencies.
Great.
They have a lot of great information for you too as well. But that's a good starting point. Is to go
Good
to
deal.
that
Good
website.
deal. Give that info again. What's that website again?
Foster.oregon.gov.
Foster.oregon.gov. Awesome. Everybody, thank you so much. Ben Potter, foster care rep for Oregon, thank you very, very much for being here. I know the Lord's going to continue to bless your ministry. And with people like you involved, that department's going to continue to see really positive things happening and people getting, not only kids getting dreams fulfilled, but parents getting hearts fulfilled.
Yeah.
So looking forward to hearing more from you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to be on your show.
Glad to help. You've been listening to the Ripple Effect Show. I'm Rob Baker. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm glad to report that this is the final episode of the first season of the Ripple Effect Radio Show. I will be starting production of season number 2 in the near future, and the Ripple Effect will continue to be aired, Lord willing. And thanks again, Winds of Praise, 98.7 FM. So we'll start over at the same day and time and run the entire season 1 again, with much thanks to those listening who gave such encouraging feedback. So a lot of people have said, we want to hear the season 1 again, and we're going to just rerun them. In the meantime, between now and season 2 of The Ripple Effect, production will also be starting on a new show titled Soul Care, which will be a series of shows intended to strengthen you spiritually at soul depth. It takes a strong soul to be a healthy Christian in this dark and dying world. Do you know how to keep your soul strong, prepared for life in this world? We'll let everyone know the day and time when Soul Care will start, and I'm already so excited to begin production on a radio show that has so much potential benefit to the listener. Your prayers are a treasure. I'm Rob Baker. Thanks so much for listening to the Ripple Effect radio show here on Winds of Praise 98.7 FM, 8 a.m. on Wednesdays. God bless you all.
Lincoln County Foster Care. Protect the child's heart. Lincoln County Foster Care. Restore family. Lincoln County Foster Care. Make a difference, make a difference. Lincoln County Foster Care.
Hello. Please listen to your heart for the next 60 seconds or so about getting involved with Lincoln County Foster Care. Children enter foster care for different reasons. Sometimes families are walking through overwhelming challenges and need additional support to keep their children safe. Foster care steps in during those seasons, offering stability and care while families work toward healing and strength. It's important to remember that children enter foster care through circumstances beyond their control, and that every family carries both story and hope. Foster care is protecting a child's heart. Foster care is supporting families on their path towards stability. Foster care is partnering with parents, relatives, and communities. Foster care is standing in the gap during a season of need. Foster care is joining something larger than yourself. Foster care is planting seeds of care and connection that can grow for generations. Your foster care connection for Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties is Benjamin Potter, 541-921-7421.
Lincoln County Foster Care. Protect the child's heart. Lincoln County Foster Care. Restore family. Lincoln County Foster Care. Make a difference, make a difference. Lincoln County Foster Care.
You've been listening to the Ripple Effect radio show, brought to you by Ripple Effect Ministries and Winds of Praise, broadcasting in Newport, 98.7 FM. Calling out to every Christian, every child of God, every Bible-toting, truth-quoting servant of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We're here to encourage you in the faith, to cheer you on in the battle, and to bring the power and glory of the gospel of Jesus Christ to you, that you might have the amazing experience of knowing Him and bringing joy to His heart. You're listening to KWPBLP, Newport 98.7 FM.